like to welcome you all to the first Town of Cape Charles State of the Town presentation, State of the Town meeting. And this is something I've been thinking would be a good idea to do. Let me turn this on. Can everyone hear me?
Oh, now we can.
So I've been thinking this is something that would be good to do for a while. This is an experiment. We've not done this before. I want to see how it works out, and if it's well received, then we may continue to do this. And this has been put together by staff and myself. Town council is aware of this, but this is reflective of my own opinions and the data and the information that the town staff has given me. I think before I start in this is a pretty good story. Most of the things that have happened in Cape Charles over the past year, and indeed over a number of years, are I think they're good. I think they speak well of the town, and I think they speak to the town growing and improving in many ways. So this is the agenda. I have a little pointer here. Unfortunately, you can't see it on the screen, but you'll have to sort of follow along as best you can. I'm going to have a quick snapshot of the year in review, and then I want to talk about quality of life and some of the things that have happened along those lines in Cape Charles over the past year. The economy and tourism. I want to talk about public safety, then financials. We're going to have a little bit on planning and building, so you can see what's coming down the road in terms of new buildings and renovations in town, and a few other things that are important to you, but they're not necessarily so visible. We'll be talking about recreation in the library. There are a couple of issues that I really think need to be brought out and discussed, and then I'm going to talk about what's next. And after that, it's not on the agenda, but I'll open up the floor to any questions that people have. There's going to be some overlap between these, so you'll see some things that appear in different places. As time goes on, maybe we'll get that straightened out, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal in terms of your understanding of what we're doing. So first of all, year in review. By the way, I made myself some notes, and I'm going to have to refer to them. There's too much here for me to remember at all, but this is a summary of what I've got here. Well, I was put into office at the beginning of July. You'll see a great picture of me later on. Well, maybe not such a great picture. It's a great picture. I don't know whether I'm so great looking in the picture, but that's fine. The love sign was dedicated. It was an installation and ribbon cutting ceremony. The love sign, which is at the point, it was funded by the Cape Charles Business Association. The town provided space and also helped with assembly and moving it. So Dave, where's Dave? There. Thanks to your guys. And this was designed by Sandy McFall and Miriam Elton, and they're really the ones who drove this home. So now we have an attraction here that people come to. They want to take pictures, and people actually go around Virginia taking pictures of themselves in front of the love sign. It's an attraction. We had a tragedy at Cherrystone. There was a tornado. You're all well aware of that. What you may not be aware of is that the Cape Charles police were the first responders on the scene. And so they were there to be helping people and really to be doing the best that they could under the circumstances. Public Works, our Public Works Department, also helped with cleanup in Cherrystone. And what these guys did was to make sure the town was all right. They cleared off the branches and so on that had fallen in the road, and made sure the town, there was access to everything, that the town was okay, and then they got in trucks and hopped off to start helping with cleanup and moving of debris and so on in Cherrystone. So thank you. It speaks well of the town. Our fire department was also on the scene there. And the other thing is that there were many Cape Charles citizens who joined others in the county to help with cleanup, and we as a county came across looking very good to the rest of the country because of the way we pitched in here. In August, we had another tragedy. There was a drowning at the Cape Charles beach. This was the first drowning that this was the first drowning in over 15 years. In fact, there had been such a gap that it was difficult to get any records of when there was a previous drowning. So because of this, we're going to be having a beach swimming area denoted and some additional signage to be put up. There were some signs that were put up after the event warning deep water ahead. We're going to expand that, and I'll talk more about that later. In the middle of September, we had our first town hall meeting, and then I initiated regular mayor's office hours. And for those of you who don't know, I have office hours on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, one in the afternoon and one in the evening, so that this is spread out for people to be consistent with people's schedules. And you can get the details of the schedule on the Cape Charles website. In November, we had a Cape Charles Citizens Day. And that was an opportunity for citizens to meet members of the Finance, Recreation, and Recreation Department, the town clerk, and also the library staff. Also in November, we had an If I Were Mayor contest. The If I Were Mayor contest was sponsored by VML and was actually a contest throughout Virginia. So children from our town wrote little essays about what they would do if they were mayor. They were submitted, and unfortunately we didn't win at the state level. I'm hopeful in coming years maybe we'll have a shot at that. But we gave little awards and recognition to the kids that participated, and also the ones that were that won within our town and whose essays went on to the VML contest. That worked out pretty well. In December, Joe Flanagan from Channel 13 shot a segment during Festive Friday. So if you were here, you saw him riding up and down Mason Avenue on Ms. Pfeiffer's carriage, and actually driving the carriage. So he had an opportunity to do that, and also to see our little town. So that worked out very nicely, got us a little bit of publicity. And then in December, sorry about that. In December, we had the inaugural dropping of the crab pot, which I thought was terrific. I don't know how all of you saw it. We had this big crab pot loaded with lights. There was smoke coming out of it. We got a crane, and we did our own little New York City thing. And from what I understand, not to be comparing us too much to Virginia Beach, the people who saw it thought ours was better than what happened in Virginia Beach. So we think this is going to continue to be going on here. So it was a nice, fun thing. Thank you, Smitty. Nice job. And then in February, the police department, excuse me, initiated the Cape Charles Business Alert Information Team. You may hear the acronym BAIT, B-A-I-T. And this is a program to coach businesses and engage businesses in such a way as to reduce crime and tell them what they need to do, and sort of in some ways eliminate some of the risks in terms of crime. So this was the first effort by Chief Pruitt at engaging the community, and there are more coming down the pike. But this was a great way to outreach to the business community. So that's in place right now. Thank you. Nice work. And that's going to be integrated in an upcoming Neighborhood Watch program. And we may talk about that a little bit more later, too. And then in March and April, the Army Corps of Engineers dredged the harbor. And when you dredge, you need to put what you dredge, the spoilage, someplace. So the sand that they were drilling in the channel was very suitable for our beach, and they were able to put that on the beach and replenish it. We typically have to spend money every year or so for beach replenishment because it gets eroded, obviously. They put down about 80,000 cubic yards of sand on the beach. The overall project was a mill. The cost of the sand itself was $750,000. You would just buy that sand. There was no cost to the town for that. And that's anticipated to give us future savings on beach replenishment. And then last of all, we have a parking plan in place. And I feel sure there may be some questions about parking. We'll talk about that a little bit. basically planned, the thing that happened was this. The town had access to parking lots on the south side of Mason for many years. That property got purchased, and then that land was no longer available for parking. So we had to come up with a solution to be able to have people have parking places, particularly during the season and during various festivals and events. So the plan that came in was that we would lease property from the railroad, which would be between the railroad tracks and the back of the property where we used to be able to park. The town is spending money to fix that up and have it available for people to park. And in addition to that, by the way, we purchased a section of that property that it lines up with Strawberry Street, so there'll be a little performance plaza there. And it'll also provide access for people to walk from the railroad parking lot to Mason Avenue to the businesses. So I think that was a good thing. We also own a lot behind the library. We have a plan in place to put parking there eventually. And then we added reverse angle parking. And like I said, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later and the rationale behind doing that. So that was the year in review. We also, well, the year in review in terms of events, we had a fair amount of turnover and retirement. There were 7 employees across 5 different departments that left. We completed a classification and compensation study, and we implemented the study's recommendations with some modifications. The town council and the town manager looked at the study and adjusted it based on our budget and other considerations. And so that new compensation plan is in place. And at this point, we have the town fully staffed. And I'm assuming that most people here know we have a new town manager, Brent Manuel. Brent, if you haven't met him, Brent Manuel, our new town manager, he started in April, and he's doing a very good job, especially dealing with the mayor. So, let's go on. Quality of life. First of all, there have been a number of improvements in Central Park. The area around the restrooms in Central Park has been landscaped. There were full-size soccer goals that were purchased, that you can see them now in Central Park, to allow kids and adults to play some soccer there. So this is not just a single-use walk through it and it looks nice area. This is a place where we have some recreation abilities there. And then there are also some drainage improvements that were made. You may have noticed that there was a big drainage pond on the southeast corner of the lot. The southeast corner of the lot, and that's now been filled in, and we were able to do that because of other improvements that were made. And so that's something else that is now an improvement. And frankly, I also view that as a safety improvement, because the drainage, when it had water in it, was deep enough the kid could get in trouble there if it was a little kid. Beach improvements. The beach area was greatly enlarged after dredging. This was a partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers, and obviously I said the only cost to the town was for us needing to redistribute some of the sand. And so there are also plans for beach activities this summer. You can see those. There's some brochures at the back. We've hired someone part-time to be organizing activities on the beach. There'll be volleyball. There'll be cornhole. There was a physical activity.
Beach fitness.
Yeah, beach fitness in the morning, and volleyball and so on. So you can see the schedule for those things on the flyers at the back. So we're getting things here that not only are going to be useful for tourists and draw tourists, but will also be benefiting the citizens of the town. We partnered with Harbor for the Arts. We have partnered with Harbor for the Arts in 2016. The Harbor for the Arts grant ran out. We cannot get any grant money. And the town stepped up and helped to fill in the gap that was needed in order for us to be able to continue that event. This is something that also draws tourists into town. And then festivals and events, and I'm sure you can all list them, but let me just go through them. We have the 4th of July parade and fireworks. We have the Clam Slam. We have Tall Ships. We have the Birding Festival and the Business Association Fall Festival. And we have the Krabby Blues Festival. So all of these things make it nice for us. They also draw dollars into the town for people who want to come and enjoy the festivals that we have. But now I'd like to talk a little bit about the economy and tourism. In 2014-15 fiscal year, there was a Cape Charles by the Bay website established. In the current fiscal year, I'm sorry, 2013-14. In the current fiscal year, the town of Cape Charles took the website over, and that is now sponsored by the town. Now, down the road, the plan is for the town to give up that sponsorship, probably to the Business Association. And what we need to do is to work out the details of how we do that, how do we keep this website going, how do we fund it, and at the same time have the town maintain some measure of control over its content. But that's something that's coming, and the Business Association is looking at that very favorably. So with a little luck, that might happen this coming year. We have a great increase in the number of renovations and new building construction. That's going to show up in the town's bottom line. The renovations and the new buildings are going to make this town a pleasanter place to be. We have houses in this town, some of which seem to be abandoned. Over time, gradually, these are being fixed up and made to look pretty, made to look very nice, and it lifts the whole character of the town. And eventually, it will also give us more revenue in terms of property tax dollars. The Cape Charles Yacht Center opened, and it's a great addition to the town. If you go over there, to tell you the truth, I like to go over there and just look at the boats. I think it's a great thing to do, and it looks nice. It just spruces things up very well, and it provides jobs. Aqua closed, sold. It went through some changes, and this past year the Oyster Farm has opened, and it's now establishing a reputation as an event and wedding center, and again, this draws people into town. We've had a number of town, county, and state partnerships. There have been a lot of things that this town has done that we cannot do on our own, and that frankly benefit the county and the state as well as ourselves. And so the town staff has been very good at finding these partnerships and taking advantage of them and helping them to go through. And I should also say we've had a lot of help from the county in this regard. You know, this is not something we do in a vacuum, and nobody's going to take credit for all of these things on their own. This is definitely partnerships. So the Bayshore concrete business has increased, and that results in more jobs and tax revenue for the town of Cape Charles. And I guess one of the people you can thank for that is Governor McAuliffe, who personally involved himself in helping to get that business. There is a harbor access road that has been agreed to. It's in the plan, and that harbor access road is going to allow Bayshore Concrete to make larger pieces of concrete, larger structures, and ship them, and therefore allow it to compete in more projects, so that it's going to be helping them to be healthy in the future, and therefore helping Cape Charles to be healthy in the future. Now, the completion for that, I don't have a firm date. I've heard 2018, I've heard 2019. The truth is, a lot of this is going to depend on funding and maybe a few other things, but not too far down the road, that road should, not too far long from now, that road should be started. So, call it 2019, but roughly, that's very approximate. Now, in addition, the Virginia Port Authority partnered with the town through grants to get more breakwaters. And there are more breakwaters planned. The breakwaters make our harbor much more useful. It prevents damage to the boats and yachts and so on that come in, and it makes it more usable. What you don't see when you hear that, it certainly is going to bring more business to the town. It, again, makes the harbor much more usable. But what you're not aware of is that it's Cape Charles, the town of Cape Charles, that lobbied successfully to change the grant structure that we have. And so at this point, we now only need to come up with 25% of the money for the breakwater. Prior to that, it was, how much was it, 50%?
It was 50%.
50%. And the problem was that the cut point for that was severe, and we just fell off the cliff in terms of being able to afford that. So this got changed for everybody as a consequence of the staff of the town lobbying to get it changed. So this is something where somehow or other your staff is doing things that have an impact on other people in the state, but of course also benefit the town. So thank you all. Bob Panick's not here, or Smitty, others, a lot of other people have contributed to this. And then Bay Creek Beach Club has opened, so that again is more revenue. So the result of all of these things, we are better positioned to be able to draw tourists into town. That's going to result in an increased transient occupancy tax and meals tax. We get more revenue from business licenses. Our property taxes will be going up. And by the way, let me be clear, the amount of money we collect in property taxes will be going up. The rate is not going up. The revenue is going up because there are more properties that can be, that will be paying property taxes, or their actual value has increased. And I think that's the right way to run things. If you can do that, that's a good thing. Public safety. Our police department is now fully staffed. There was a long period of time when we were very much understaffed, and I can remember seeing Chief Pruitt running around with basically pinwheels in his eyes because he and an understaffed police department were trying to cover everything, and in some cases cover some things that were pretty severe and pretty significant. So we now have a full complement. Police department is also looking to modernize and engage the community. We now have body cams for all police officers. Police officers in the department have gotten training over the year. BAIT I already mentioned, and plans for a neighborhood watch will follow. And we have money in the budget for 2015-16 for dash cams. And I strongly support this because this protects the police officers, and it also protects citizens. This is not Baltimore. This is not Ferguson. But we have people coming into town from all over the country, and frankly from all over the world. You know, I've met people from Quebec. I've met people from Europe, and so on. And so this is the way I think things are supposed to happen, that the police department is anticipating what the issues might be and trying to put into place things that will prevent any bad things from happening. Thank you. So, beach safety improvements. Again, we talked about the designated swimming area for the coming year. Now, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. First of all, strictly speaking, it's not a designated swimming area. We weren't able to do that. There are some regulations and some things we would have needed to do that were just not possible to do. What we have done is we have an area we will have an area that is designated where no boats can come in. So there will be a float that will be, one end will be anchored, the south end will be anchored at the jetty, and then there'll be a line of floats that are going to run north to Monroe. And then there will be a line coming into shore that sort of helps to tether it, and then it will be anchored at various points in the float line. The depth there where that float line is probably going to be about 5 to 6 feet. You can't say for sure, depends on the tides, depends on the weather, and all sorts of things, but it's not going to be 10 feet. And the idea is to keep boats out and keep swimmers in. Now, if you're a swimmer, you can go outside that, but at least you've got a warning that says, hey, you're going outside where you're supposed to be. So we were not able to have this go the entire length of the beach at this point. There may be some discussion down the road as to whether we even want to do that, but at this point it goes to Monroe. Now, this has been delayed. The biggest reason for this being delayed was the beach replenishment, because nobody knew what the shape of the beach was going to be until after the beach was replenished. So the beach had to be replenished. There was some work to redistribute sand, and then the beach had to be surveyed by the Army Corps of Engineers. We have that information now, and the floats, and by the way, also some additional signage. That's all on board. So we'll have some improved signage there. Sidewalk repairs. You may recall VDOT was in town for a number of months in the past year putting sidewalks in. The total cost of that work, not putting sidewalks in, repairing sidewalks, the total cost of that work was $1 million. VDOT paid for all of that. Cape Charles did not pay for any of it. There is a program that allows towns to apply for repairs to existing sidewalks to be done by VDOT. Cape Charles is the only town that applied for this. So, again, the staff was on top of things and got us something that we needed to have, and others did not take advantage of. And then the last thing is we also fund the Cape Charles Volunteer Fire Department. I don't recall the number, but it's a fairly large number. You can look in the budget and you can see that. But this is something we need to have. It's a volunteer company, but they need some support. All right, I'd like to turn now to finance. For fiscal year 14-15, the budget was balanced with a slight reserve of about $50,000 and no increase in tax rates. This allowed us, well, the other thing that happened is, as time went on, council decreased spending in some areas based on some input from staff. We got increased revenue in other areas, and that allowed us to fund some additional things that we might not have been able to do otherwise. And that is, for example, improvements to the leased parking lot that I mentioned earlier. We were able to purchase the Strawberry Street Plaza, which hopefully will become a performance space, and maybe someday down the road we'll even have a farmer's market there. And then also we were also able to fund the compensation study. With those changes, with the adjustments in spending, and with the increased revenue, we still came out a little bit ahead. So I think this is a good story, and I think staff and council deserve to be congratulated for management. I'll talk a little bit more about financial management going forward. So I think this is a good story. For fiscal year 15-16, we are projected to have a surplus of about $107,000. So the big question is, why is that? And I think there are three reasons. The first is that we do have an improved economy, so people have a little more money to be able to spend. And I think that is a good thing, and I think anybody can take advantage of that. But I think there's something else that needs to be recognized. There were prior infrastructure and quality of life investments on the part of the town, and also, by the way, on the part of citizens of the town that are simply not connected with town government, who did various things. The one group that comes to mind is Citizens for Central Park, but there are others. And that positioned Cape Charles to be able to take advantage of the improving economy. If we didn't have those infrastructure changes, if we didn't have Central Park looking as nice as it did. If we hadn't fixed you got it, you guys know the picture. I don't believe we would be anywhere near as successful as we are. People come into town, they see what the town looks like, and they say, I'm gonna come back here. This is a nice place to visit. And some people say this is a nice place to live. So I think prior town management and council and the prior mayor made some very wise decisions. So thank you all to them. The other thing that we have, I believe we have a much improved financial management process. One of the things that came up was, are people not paying transient occupancy tax? And is this a source of revenue that's getting away from the town where people don't do what they're supposed to do? And there's been a concerted effort on the part of the treasurer and her staff. So we now have a very good collection of transient occupancy taxes. Excuse me. Now, are we getting everybody? I doubt it. But we're getting way more than we are, and the town is going to continue to work to make sure that all those things are collected, and that helps our revenues. Because after all, when people come into town, they also use services, and those services need to be paid for. There's also been a concerted effort to, on following up on late property taxes, business license taxes, business property, and so on. There's a list of them, and collecting on those that are either late or delinquent. We don't have them all, but there was a big change in that, and that's a result of a much improved financial management process, and that helps us as well. And then the other thing we did, and then some people didn't like this idea, but we also now charge for credit card payments. Now that doesn't bring us a lot of money in. I don't know, it might be a few thousand or $3,000. But the rationale there goes like this: as a town, if we allow people to pay by credit card, we have to pay a monthly fee. We also have to pay a percentage of whatever we collect to the credit card company. Now, if you're a business, you have to do that as well. However, as a business, you can put a portion of that or all of it into the prices you charge people when you sell them something. So at the end of the day, you pay this, but you sort of recover it in some way. Town's not a profit-making institution. We don't have the option of doing that. This is a convenience for people. It's a service, and we want to allow them to have it, but at the same time, we felt it was not fair to people who pay by check and who don't use that service to sort of have to bear that burden. So that's and again, not a big amount of money, but something. And incidentally, my experience with budgets, not that it is great, is that much of the time, the only way you get improvements in a budget is by looking at small things, at many small things, and fixing them and putting the right controls in place. And the last thing is we now have a 5-year capital improvement plan. As far as I know, we never had that before. So you can look in that capital improvement plan in the budget, and you can see some things that are planned for down the road. Now, I want to caution you here. Those are plans. The further out you go, the more, let's say, the more uncertainty there is in how much we spend, whether we spend it, and so on. But it is intended to give a roadmap so people have an idea going forward what we're going to be doing. Now, will those things change? Certainly. But at least it's a swag at what are we going to have to spend in the future? What do we want to sacrifice now to be able to do something in the future? Are things in the future really important, and so on? So I think that this is a very good idea, and Debbie and her staff have done an outstanding job on getting our finances in order. Thank you. Let me just take you through some of the finances. This chart is a little bit small. This is a revenue comparison. You can get this online and see it a little better. But these are all the areas where we collect revenues and taxes and so on. And this is through April of this year. But it's an apples-to-apples comparison because it compares April to April to April. So if you look at this, in most cases, we may be down a little bit in a few places. In most cases, we were ahead of the game, sometimes flat. And you can see that very gradually our revenue is increasing. And you can sort of flick through that and see where we're going. Transient occupancy tax, it's the third one down. You see that's steadily going up. So anyway, that's that. And this shows you an overview of where the money gets spent. Now, the big one there is capital improvements. And that's the one that I'm sure everybody focuses on. We've got $1.68 million in capital improvements for fiscal year 15-16. 1.57 of that is the community trail. So there's one big item in there, and the community trail is going to do two things. One of them is it's going to increase the amount of sidewalk we have in town, which I think everyone would like. And the other thing, it makes the town a more attractive place because that community trail will also have incorporated into a kind of arts walk. So this is something for cyclists and people walking, and it'll be an interesting place to do that. It makes our town more walkable. Boards and commissions and the planning department. Let me first give you a snapshot, and I'm just going to read this. There were 25 zoning clearances issued, 3 sign permits, and 5 wetlands delineations issued. There were 14 historic district certificates of appropriate issued, and 2 harbor development certificates issued. Now, the details of that aren't necessarily important to you. What I want to give you a flavor for is the planning department has been busy. And this is all reflective of what happens under the surface when you have this construction going on in town. In addition to that, we have some Mason Avenue building and renewal going on. 300 Mason Avenue, that would be Strawberry Street Plaza. The demolition for that was approved and site plan approved. That's going to be a mix of residential and commercial properties. And it will, by the way, because of zoning ordinances that have been passed, have parking associated with it for the businesses that are there. So the parking that people who come to the businesses in Strawberry Plaza aren't going to take up parking spaces that would be used for the businesses on Mason Avenue. And then you may have noticed 1 Mason Avenue, there's an old hotel there. There are building renovation plans in place and they've been approved. I think that's going to be a great addition to the town, and I think it's going to look great when it's done. I've seen the plan, it really looks very nice. And then finally, we have reverse angle parking for in the central business district, and I got that under issues. I got 2 issues I want to talk about. Then there have been some ordinance changes. First of all, there was a revised floodplain management ordinance passed. What happened was that FEMA updated the flood insurance rate map, and the town needed to adopt. The town needed to adopt that in order to stay in the community rating system. So how does this affect you? What it means is that you can continue to take advantage of a 5% discount for the community rating system for flood insurance if you wish to have it. If we hadn't done that, if you had flood insurance, your rates would have gone up. Now, there are some people now who fall outside the flood zone, don't need to get flood insurance. You need to manage your own affairs. It's up to you whether you get flood insurance or not. My take is, get it. My wife and I have that. I would not take a chance like that. And then we have a town tourism zone ordinance that is being drafted. And the idea behind that tourism zone would be to give advantages to tourist-related businesses that want to locate in this town to encourage that location. One of the pieces of that that has been insisted upon by council and myself and the planning commission too, I mean, there's nobody that disagrees with it, is that we not penalize existing businesses. So a portion of that is going to allow existing businesses to take advantage of that, of those benefits if they meet criteria that are similar to what a new business coming into town would meet. So if you expand, and what I don't know what the rules will wind up being, but if you expand similar to another business, then you get to take advantage of those benefits. We're also working on a satellite dish. I'm not. The planning commission and our planner are working on a satellite dish ordinance. That's a tough one because there are a lot of satellite dishes around already, and basically, you basically have to allow them. The problem is they have to be facing, I guess it's southwest, right, Larry? So it would be nice to say you can't have it on the front of your house. I don't know how we're going to handle that. Because if your house faces southwest, it could eliminate the need for a satellite dish. So I don't know what we're going to do about that, but people are working on that. And then there are also there are updates to the town historic district guidelines that are in progress. Comprehensive plan update is in progress. There's been a draft completed. It's in review by council. And then the other thing is that from time to time we have people that get a little surprised by what they need to do in order to do something relative to building in town. And they shouldn't be, you know, it's strictly speaking, it's the responsibility of the homeowner and the builder to come in and find out I need to do this. But to make it a little bit easier, the planning department is also working on process flow charts and checklists to assist residential and commercial property owners so that they know what to do. You know, do this, do this, do this, do this. Thank you, Larry. So what's next? Oh, sorry. Jeb. Jeb isn't exactly sitting on his hands. I want to show you, this is the number of permits that have been issued through March. He didn't have the data yet for April. I don't think there were a whole lot in April, and tells me May is going to be really big. The green is the current fiscal year. So you can see there are a lot of permits that have been issued. This shows building permit fees, and some of those are from one or two large projects. I think one of them is the Beach Club. But basically, there's a lot of permit fees that have been collected. So we have one code enforcement officer and one building inspector, and it's the same guy. So he's done a lot of work. And then here are building inspections, and you can see the number there. This is year to date, right? Year to date, 500 inspections.
Well, no, that doesn't count April.
It doesn't count April. This does not count April. Okay, so sorry. Through March, 500 inspections. That's busy. And then this gives you a little picture of what we've got. You see new construction is increasing, both residential and commercial. There's been some places with substantial improvements. Now, I don't know why the alterations have dropped, but basically most things are going up. So this again shows you that things are improving in this town, and hopefully it makes the town a better place to live and helps our bottom line. So thank you. Nice work. This is the library. Bottom line, we've had a circulation of 1,350. That's books checked out, and that is through April of 2015. What you don't see on here is all the programs that are run at the library for children and also for adults. And the other thing is that library is now getting repeat customers. People who come here for a visit discover the library, and they check books out on the honor system, and they keep coming back. And Ann tells me that so far they haven't had any books that were not returned. So again, this is something that is really more intended for the town, but benefits us a little bit in terms of making this a more welcoming place for people to visit us. So Ann, good job. This is a really busy chart. And normally they tell you not to make charts so busy, but I really like it. And the reason that I like it, it's a busy chart because the recreation department is busy. And it gives you a real picture of all the things that are going on in town. There's an ugly guy up there in the events who was in the 4th of July parade in the harbor. That's the then new mayor. That was a lot of fun riding in that in the harbor patrol boat. So if you look at this, I'm not going to try to read all these things for you, but you ought to go through and see all the things that there are there. There are some ongoing programs. That's in the upper left-hand corner. There are some events. That's in the upper right corner. I think I listed all of those. The recreation department is involved in all of those with help from others. And then there are some projects that are going on. So for example, the new soccer goal and the swimming area, Christmas events, you can see those. So we have a very busy, we have a very active recreation department. Jan Lewis is part-time. So this is...
full-time.
Oh, you're full-time?
Yeah.
Well, that makes more sense. I didn't know that. Okay. Okay.
You're doing fine, Toby.
You what?
I said you were doing fine, Toby.
Well, it's like the guy that makes the rug and he makes one fall so he won't offend God. So, anyway, but she did a great job here, so thank you. And issues. Parking, let's talk about parking. The rollout for the reverse angle parking was not good at all. So we should have spent a lot more time talking to people about this. We should have put out flyers, the signage, we should have looked at better signage. And in general, that's something I'm not so proud of. So let me give you a little background on reverse angle parking. Verbally, we have been told many times by VDOT that head-in parking would not be approved. The situation we had was we lost parking across from Mason and we had to recover parking spaces. Angle parking allows us to get 30 additional parking spaces. And we felt that was really needed because of the number of people that come into this town, particularly on events. Now, when we don't have events, we probably don't need that. But in big weekends in summer and when there are vacations and so on, there are people from out of town all walking up and down Mason Avenue. If you look on the VDOT website, they say they do not allow angle parking. They don't specify which kind, but in the past, we had been told they will not approve head-in parking. So reverse angle parking, and I don't, by the way, I don't want to focus so much on what VDOT says. I'm doing this in the wrong order. If you look online, again, there must be at least a dozen cities across the country that have angle parking. Washington, Indianapolis, Baltimore, Pottstown, Vancouver, Washington. There are a whole bunch of them. Tucson. And I picked Tucson because Tucson has reported that when they switched to reverse angle parking, they had a drop in bicycle accidents. Prior to having reverse angle parking, they averaged 3 to 4 bicycle accidents per month. Afterwards, for a 2-year period, they had none. Now, there are other people who report that this is a safer thing to do. And the reason is when you back up, when you back into traffic, you can't see. When you back up, you do have a hard time seeing. You have to turn around, and it is difficult. And it is difficult to get used to. I recognize that. But when you're backing into traffic, you also have difficulty seeing. In this town, we have golf carts, we have bicycles, we have people in motorized wheelchairs who, while they perhaps should not be in the street, occasionally are. We have children who are not necessarily from town. We have all sorts of traffic on Mason Avenue, and basically the belief is that it is safer for us to have reverse angle parking than to have pull-in parking. And VDOT believes that, and so this is the best that we can do. What we're going to be doing is going back and revisiting how we teach people about this. We want to have some things in place so that the tourists who come into town who may not be familiar with it really understand they need to do that. And it's going to take a little while to do this, because if we do it again, I want to do it right. I don't want to roll something out a second time and, oh no, we didn't do it quite right. When we do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to get the right signage, and we're going to talk to everybody and do the best we can to make this public. So when I get to questions and comments, if others have questions about that, I will certainly do my best to answer them. With regard to the beach, the only thing I would say about the beach is that I feel like well, there's two things. First is relative to the swimming area. I think I addressed that and why that is, hasn't been done yet. The other thing is we had a situation over Memorial Day where we had a beach that, as far as I know, has never been as packed as it was. Just anecdotally, from our end, the north end of the beach, my wife and I have never seen so many cars parked, except when we had people there for the 4th of July fireworks. So this was very unusual, and we didn't expect it. So there were dogs on the beach. I don't know what other things might be going on. Jim had it was Jake who sent down on the beach in the afternoon to get the dogs off the beach. But what we need to do is we're going to develop a plan for enforcement. Don't know how we're going to do that yet. I don't know the details of that, I mean. But that plan is going to be developed. There are signs on order relative to dogs to make it much more clear what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So, so those things are coming, and those signs are on order. So that's it for what I've got so far. I mean, I'm sure there are other things people may wish to ask, and I'll talk about them if you would like. I'd say the next thing is what's next. Beach safety, I talked about. Neighborhood watch, I talked about. And again, this is not just, this is a way to connect with the community. It's not just a way to assure that there is less crime, but it's a way to get everybody involved in making sure this is a safe place. We have planned for additional sidewalks in the fiscal year 15-16 budget. There won't be a lot of them because we can't afford to do them all at once, and there are some issues about putting sidewalks everywhere. We have places where we have some very large, beautiful trees planted right where you put a sidewalk. So we need to figure out how we're going to handle that. What I don't want to do is be cutting down a bunch of really big, healthy trees. I don't want to ruin the character of the street, and I don't want to have to spend the money because it's very expensive to take a tree down like that. So we'll need to work that out, but over time, we anticipate we'll be expanding the sidewalks in town. And then we want to continue to improve the attractiveness of Cape Charles as a destination. We have had the Neptune maquette donated to us. There will be, the Neptune maquette is a 7-foot model of the statue that is in Virginia Beach. Now it's fiberglass, but this is part of the process for making that bronze statue in Virginia Beach. So we're going to have our own little Neptune statue. That'll be towards the north end of the beach. I think it's between, what is it, between Jefferson and,
Washington.
between Jefferson and Washington, back from the boardwalk. So again, now we're going to have the Neptune statue, we have the dolphins, and we have the love sign. And so over time, we may be adding some more things to that to make the walkway more interesting. And then we have the community trail plan for this year. So, in terms of economic health, council seems to be very much on board with an economic development and tourism commission. And this would be a way to formalize drawing businesses into town that are going to be suitable here, maybe provide some jobs and some tax dollars. I mentioned the tourism zone already, I mentioned the harbor access zone already, and the additional breakwater. And then over time, council would like to establish a rainy day fund. Now, I gotta caution you, we show a $107,000 projection. That can evaporate. We don't know what's coming down the pike. You know, if there's an emergency that comes up and we need to spend that money, we will. And I think the other reason we might spend it is if an opportunity comes up that council as a whole thinks is really worthwhile taking, then we might also spend that money. But at the end of the day, the hope is to build up a small fund that we can continue from year to year, so that if something happens, some emergency comes, we have a little bit of a buffer. And then we're going to continue infrastructure improvement and maintenance. Water quality. The Keck wells, when did the Keck wells plan to come online? Do you remember? Bob or Dave?
Whenever council, they could come online next year.
Yeah, okay. So
if council so chooses
So-
to proceed.
So that should improve the water quality. There's an auto flush system that's being introduced that will get rid of disinfectant byproducts in the water system, but that also goes into the wastewater treatment plant. And so the hope is that that will flush lines that are not used so much and help to reduce the smell that we have from time to time. So, and then the other thing is we're planning to, or Dave's guys are planning to put chloramine treatment in during the summer. And I'm not going to go into the details of what that is, but it will help to improve our water quality by reducing the byproducts of chlorination, because it's a different kind of disinfectant system. I mentioned the sidewalk plan, we're going to develop that, and I mentioned the community trail. And that's it. So this has been long, and I appreciate your patience. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Joan?
I have one comment, and I'm not sure, I don't mean to insult anyone, but the town's fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th.
Correct.
So that the current year we're in fiscally is 14-15.
Correct.
And the future budget, the one we're hoping to pass, is for fiscal year 15-16. That will be effective July 1st, just so everyone has an understanding.
If I didn't make that clear, I apologize. We're talking about two different years, 14-15 and 15-16. So the surplus, the $50,000 surplus was for the current fiscal year, 14-15. The projection of $107,000 is for the upcoming fiscal year that starts July 1st. Go ahead.
And the second point is, while we are working on a tourism zone, it's important to note, I think, for people to know that we in prior years passed a technology zone, and Bayshore Concrete has taken advantage of it, and so they are going to be getting some tax credits, if you will.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Over time for making substantial investments in technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was it.
Right. So, and that by the way, that technology zone is still in effect. and that hopefully we can use that in the tourism zone when it's passed as a way to get more businesses in town. Okay? Please.
Hi, I'm Enid Gast, and
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
I'm Enid Gast. And first of all, I want to thank all the folks who, with the beautification of the bathroom, it looks good. I was sitting on my front porch and a golf cart came down Monroe with teenagers in it, went clear across Plum and took that little pathway up where the pumping station is. I don't know if you can visualize. And went right into the park. And I'm thinking, ugh. You know, I see that where sometimes golf carts go into the park as a, you know, they use the sidewalk as a road. And, you know, I know that there are little folks in there, there are people on bikes. Bill and I walk our dogs, and there is no sign anymore. There used to be a sign where the yellow roses used to, are now.
Where is this? At the pumping station?
Yeah,
It's our- I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't make my, I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear, but if the sign can be replaced, alerting folks that people in golf carts should not be driving around the sidewalks in the park. That's what I'm just requesting, because I don't see, there used to be a little dinky winky sign where the flowers are, but it's not there anymore. And if that could be replaced, I'd appreciate it.
Maybe you think you could take a look at that? Were the teenagers, were they old enough to drive? Because I thought you were going to say something else.
Oh, there's no way I was gonna say.
Well, no, did they look? No. Did
No,
they
I
look?
have no idea.
No idea.
You know, I can't tell anymore.
Well, the other thing she and Pruitt's run into once in a while is kids driving around in golf carts.
Oh, yeah, and that,
Which-
they could have been licensed, but I have no way of knowing. They were just young folks, and they were probably just unaware.
Yep, I'm
That's all.
sure. Okay,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Well, go ahead, Jean.
Is this meeting a public, non-public record, or the minutes being taken?
Yes, and it's being taped.
Okay.
No
I
minutes.
just wanted to make sure
No
my
minutes.
comments are on the record. You have addressed the increased tourism, it's good for Cape Charles. I thought Memorial Day weekend was a huge disappointment. I personally saw no enforcement of any of our rules. I'm not saying it wasn't there, I didn't see it. I saw dogs on the beach, I saw boats in the swimming area, which it sounds like is an issue we maybe can't address.
Well, the boats in the swimming area ought to be addressed by the float line.
And I have talked to you about
Yeah.
the float line, and am very disappointed that it's not in place at the beginning of summer. The point I want to make is I was expecting to have my grandchildren here for 4th of July. We are changing our plans based on what I saw this past weekend. I don't feel like it was a good family environment. I'm very disappointed in that, and I would want to know that there might be some kind of an enforcement plan being developed for 4th of July, because it's a month away. We're going to see the same thing. The other big thing that I saw, I've heard many stories, I'm not repeating because I didn't see it, speed limits. People are flying through this town. I saw no enforcement whatsoever, and I'm very disappointed.
We'll discuss that in staff.
Thank you.
We will discuss that in staff. You know, you make some good points, Gene, but we do need an enforcement plan. And you're right, the next big holiday coming up is 4th of July, but the other thing we've got to be worried about is ships. which is coming up in the
like
middle of
Sam,
June.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's one after another. And
Yeah.
I think we need to set a reputation of enforcement.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought of this morning, and this was, a lot of beaches are going non-smoking, and I'm wondering if that's not pushing some people into Cape Charles that we weren't expecting. A lot of beaches, public beaches are going non-smoking. And I'm
Really?
wondering, it just sort of crossed my mind. Just something to think about. We may be seeing a lot more people because of that issue.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, sort of an aside.
Thank you. Your points are well taken.
Thank you.
We got it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. I think, in closing, all I'd say, clearly we have some work to do, but also there have been a lot of good things that have happened. And I hope people leave with the realization that we're trying to do our best and that a lot of good things have gone on in the past. And things will come up from time to time that we're going to have to address, and we'll do that. So I thank the staff and I thank the citizens all for coming out on a Saturday. And Smitty, by the way, is the one that organized. Did I tell us? You organized the crab pot drop and clam slam and a few other things. We have a good staff, so I'm very happy with everybody. Libby, I didn't mention you once.
That's fine, no problem.
Town couldn't run without it. Thank you all very much, and if you have questions, I have office hours, and I've got a mayor's phone, and I'm around town all the time. Oh, well,
And thank you for doing this today.
oh, you're welcome.
This was very informative. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, thank you very much.